So, hello, fellow Earthlings. This is Earthling 64554633728. And let's get into some topics for today. I have thoughts throughout the day for the longest while I have. And it's just like interesting thoughts that I want to do some research on. And now that we've had the internet for the last however many years, Um, it's always good to be able to have an idea, have a thought, and be able to check up on it. So one of the thoughts that I was thinking today, or maybe a couple days ago when I wrote down, was number one, we should probably never, ever, 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 ever rely on any kind of Trump polling whatsoever. And you might ask, well, why did you think about that? Well, I saw a headline where they were saying that support for Trump was down among Republicans, and it maybe was down by, I don't know, something like 10%. So uh, maybe it's only, right, only 50% of Republicans think that Donald Trump actually should be the president right now. And I think we've done this enough times in 2016 and 2020. Um, with respect to Brexit, the polling, something is off with the polling. For whatever reason it is, and people have not been able to, I guess, decipher and make the necessary corrections for their polling, the errors in their polling. But clearly, there is something that's going on, I would imagine, with people and decisions um, whether conscious or otherwise, to admit to the fact that they are going to vote for Donald Trump. So I think a number of people, there have been some news articles out there that say that Trump has been asking different people what they think about the fact that, or the idea that he might be able to regain the presidency sometime during this year. And I think that just shows how nuts he is. But at the same time, um, if there was ever a way, legal or otherwise, I think a lot of people would support him, and a lot more Republicans than the polls would tend to show. So I think that, I saw a quote by someone that said that, and this is something that I didn't realize, but I looked into it recently, and it's true, I guess, that Hitler had tried to take over Germany illegally. And I think he must have served like a couple of months or something in jail. And then 10 years afterwards, he took it over legally. And that's how that went. So I think with this individual, Mr. Trump, who is just constantly trying to look for ways to stay in power indefinitely, that he's going to succeed. I think. I'm sorry. But he's going to succeed because the people who should be pushing back against him are not, because they fear for their lives, for their political lives. And yeah. On another note, um, I was looking at, is it author Michael Lewis? He was being, or he was being interviewed many years ago because I looked at one of these. I've seen some of these books that he's written, Flash Boys. Well, The Big Short is where knows him from, and Moneyball. But one of the things that was revealed by him and I guess the main character, Brad Katsuyama in Flash Boys, is that the exchanges, they don't get really, they don't have people, they don't make as much money, if any at all, from facilitating um, exchanges as a market. Um, because it's all done via computers and you don't need that many people, so you're not going to get that much money. And I think the exchanges are publicly traded companies themselves, as far as I know. So, their shareholders, even if they weren't publicly traded, which I actually do think that they are, shareholders don't like to see that the companies that they are shareholders of are not making as much money. Even if it's a non-profit, they don't like the idea that they're not, their revenues are not as high. So, of course, you want to increase, maintain, and increase. And if you are not, if your services have been displaced, you don't really need, even though you're doing more and more trades, you're not making as much money because there's no more need. Computers have completely taken over those jobs. As a result of that, what happens is that these exchanges look for ways to make money in other ways. And the way that they do that is by giving these high frequency traders the ability to intercept the trades of large traders, uh, basically buy the shares that these traders want to buy before the traders can buy it, increase their prices, and then sell it back to these people. So, I mean, that's the main idea of the book. And it's basically, it reveals that there's a tax on anybody who wants to deal in the market. There's a tax on them. And there's a tax on, Americans. There's a tax on anybody who wants to deal. I don't know if there are a lot of high frequency traders in other countries. But the whole idea is by there are a lot of different exchanges where orders get actually crunched, where you say you see that there's something for sale, there's a bunch of shares for sale, you press a button to buy these things. The high frequency traders are able to um, realize that you want to buy this in minute fractions of a second, and as a result of that, they go and buy the shares that you want to buy before you can, jack up the price so that, they determine how much you actually pay in the end if you can get any of these um, shares. And for ordinary people, this doesn't make a difference. But there's so much of this, um, I'd like to say, duplicity that's going on that there's no way even to know how much money these people are making. And it does not bode well for the future because, as Michael Lewis was saying, when people ask him, well, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal. Maybe what? They're going to increase the prices of the shares that you want to buy by a couple of cents. And that's not even for ordinary traders. So what difference does it make? Well, because it adds uncertainty and it creates distrust because people know that there's something funky going on. They know that there's something funky going on, and we don't even know exactly the scale of this funkiness. So, yeah. But it overall, it's at the moment really getting into Michael Lewis's books because I find that there is so much. I mean, there's Moneyball. I have to do some research to satisfy myself to see what effect that idea of looking for players based on stats rather than hunches from from those people who go out and look for good players. If you just get players based on their statistics, what how has that played off now that is supposed to be like I saw one report that it was 18 years since either the book or it first began. I think it's more likely the book. So I have to do some research for my own personal self to understand how the ramifications of that. The high frequency trading, I think a lot of people have heard about that now. Um, the hero of the book Flash Boys, he went on to try to create an exchange that did not allow high frequency traders to do what they do. Um, and he's should be really wealthy. Hopefully, he's helping to end that stuff. I don't know the extent. Maybe at some point I'll get the interest to go look that up. Also, so there's Moneyball, there is Flash Boys, there's The Big Short. There's probably some. Oh, there is The Undoing Project. That is a really interesting um, book. I'm not actually going to buy and read any of these books because on the occasion that I have um, bought books that I have seen a lot of YouTube videos about, I realize that that's pretty much it. Everything that they talk about in the YouTube videos, like in their what do you call it? In their interviews, those are the most exciting. It's like a movie, or it's like one of these things that I saw in terms of how do you make a comic book. And every panel of a comic book is supposed to be the most exciting moment in the sequence of events that the panel is supposed to represent. So if a panel represents 3 seconds, you look for where the person has their arm fully extended to punch the other person. So the maximum range that their arm actually goes through. And then the other person, you draw the full extent to which their head knocks back. So it's the same kind of thing in an interview, or it's the same kind of thing in a trailer. You tend to show the most exciting parts of the movie in the trailer. You know, think about The Matrix. That scene where Keanu was bending backwards. I mean, of course, there are other scenes in the movie that are more compelling once you have actually seen it or seen the other parts of the movie. And you know, Neo stops the bullets in midair. Actually, that might even have been in the trailer, as far as I know. So, yeah, there from those interviews, there is so much other information that you can that leads you to research or be interested in so many other topics that that's probably what I'm more likely going to do rather than actually buy any of Michael Lewis's books. Another idea that occurred to me was that was that we look at nature, what remains of nature now, these days. I've heard different quotes for different animals. So I think the population, for example, of rhinoceroses or the population of elephants, for example, has gone down by something like 80 something percent. So we really have the barest minimum of animal life that remains, and yet we look at it and we think, oh my God, they're killing the elephants. No, most of the elephants are already dead. Most of the rhinoceroses, the tigers, lions, bears, water buffalo, buffalo, you name it, you name an animal, it's on its last legs, more than likely, especially large mammals or just large wild animals, period. So, um, but what remains of nature, we look at it and we're like, you know, they have all these nature shows that will say, oh, look, the splendid intricacies of the ecological world and how everything links in together. And I think to myself, you know what? It's not perfect, but there is probably beauty in our artificial world. The fact that we have been able to achieve this population um, increase and consistent increase based on the ability to deliver food to all of our 7+ billion people, and in some areas more than others, to deliver medicine and medical care. Um, uh, Also, in order to educate people, in order to put in infrastructure. It's not perfect, but it is beautiful, especially if you're a creature that comes from another planet, let's say, and you are looking at what we have, you might find some beauty in it. Yes, there is pollution. Yes, there's destruction of habitat, but that happens in the natural world as well. We just don't see it as much, or we just think that it's beautiful too. So, for example, if we see a whole bunch of sediment with fossils, like how oil, that could be looked at as pollution. But no, we think of that as the natural world and the buildup of fossil fuels, like oil and coal and whatever else. So, but the way that we have managed to be successful as a species and all of the different changes that we have wrought in order to achieve the infrastructure that we have and the stability that we have, at least for humans, that's beautiful too. And it's interesting as well. So, yeah, I think that we tend to look at what we have created as being artificial and ugly. And I think that we don't understand, maybe we take it for granted